Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Kier, and joining me as always is Austin Davidson from Long Island, New York.
Hey, what's up?
We are going to be previewing the AFC Championship game, the Pittsburgh Steelers, a number 3 seed, going into Foxborough on Sunday to face the number 1 seeded Patriots. Let's take a quick look at the injury report. For the Steelers, it's a long list, but most of the players that didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday were practicing on Friday. The only players worth mentioning is James Harrison. He didn't practice on Thursday and was a full participant on Friday. He has a shoulder and triceps injury that's questionable, but we're expecting him to play. Fitzgerald Toussaint and Ladarius Green are both still in concussion protocol. Toussaint was a full participant in practice on Friday, and Green was limited. However, Green did go on the team flight to Foxborough, so that's a good sign that at least there's a chance he could play. You want to take the Patriots injury report, Austin?
Yes. Every single one of the players I'm going to list is questionable, so I'm just going to go over their injury. Danny Amendola has an ankle injury. Martellus Bennett has a knee injury. Brandon Bolden has a knee injury. Dante Hightower has a shoulder injury. Chris Hogan has a thigh injury. Malcolm Mitchell has a knee injury. Jabal Sheard has a knee injury. And again, all of these players are questionable, and funny enough, all of these players will live in practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
All right, well, looking at the game now, Austin, this AFC Championship game is probably something that a lot of people, including me, predicted at the start of the season. You can always count on the Patriots for at least 12 wins. They had 14 this year. And the Steelers were kind of a team on the rise, I think. There were questions about their defense, but you looked at teams around the AFC. You figured the Steelers had a good chance to meet the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, but it is reality now. Are these the two best teams in the AFC this year, Austin?
I think so. I feel like they played as well as they could. They both deserve to be here. I don't think the Chiefs... Actually, you know what? I will say that possibly the Raiders.
I was just thinking about them. Yeah, that was the only other team I was thinking might have been as deserving as one of these two teams. But outside of them, I really didn't see anyone else, didn't you?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's it's definitely interesting that these two teams ended up making it as far as they did in the past that they took. But for the Steelers, it has always been about the Killer Bees, including last week where they added a fourth in Chris Boswell. But do you think they can produce enough in this game to overcome the huge advantage that the Patriots have of being on the home field and the fact that they rarely lose at home, and specifically with the Killer Bees? Which one do you think the Patriots are going to key in on this week?
There's no doubt in my mind that they could win this game and they could produce in this game. But the better question is, can someone other than the Killer Bees step up and make plays? Because I'm not worried about the Killer Bees. I think the Killer Bees are unstoppable in my mind for the most part. And it's more of the fact of if the other team can stop the other players besides the Killer Bees. Because that's what dictates the game. The Killer Bees will be successful, as I said. But will players like Eli Rogers, Kobe Hamilton, Jesse James, and Ladarius Green, if he plays, step up? Anyhow, back to the question at hand. If the Patriots want to try to stop the Killer Bees, they'll have to shut down Le'Veon, the most important piece this year to the Killer Bees, in my opinion. The Steelers have really let him backpack them, and he's done fantastic doing it. If the Patriots want to ensure a W here, they will need to keep Le'Veon Bell contained. How about you? What do you think?
I'm curious. What would contained be to you? Because I think we both are assuming that Le'Veon Bell is going to get over 90 rushing yards. What would contained for the Patriots be, like under 90 yards, or is it like under 120 scrimmage yards? Like, what is successful for the Patriots defense?
Under 100 scrimmage yards. Last time they let him eat on passes too. So they're going to need to shut him down to under 100 scrimmage yards to be successful.
Let me ask you another question. Would you rather have Le'Veon Bell going for 80 yards and, say, a touchdown, or would you rather have him go 120 yards but no touchdowns?
I'm always a fan of, it's actually closer than I thought, but I'm still a fan of the yards. I like being,
But points are points, Austin.
Last week. It's tainting me because all I wanted to see was Le'Veon Bell run it. And he had a lot of yards, but he didn't get a touchdown. It was really depressing. I'm actually going to switch it to the touchdown because of last week, because I would rather see him run one in.
Okay. I was curious as to what you thought. As far as what I think about the Killer Bees producing in this game, yeah, of course they can, but they need to play a clean game. It's one thing to produce, get yards, and then, get touchdowns. It's another when you turn the ball over. And obviously that means I'm most concerned about Ben Roethlisberger, who's probably been the most inconsistent of the bunch this year. At home, putting up MVP-like numbers and subpar numbers on the road. I think Le'Veon Bell is going to get his yards. He's going to be impactful like he always is. But it's going to be up to Roethlisberger to produce in this game and play clean football, making sure he's hitting his receivers and he's on target. Because last week, when they got inside the Chiefs, I think 30-yard line, the statistic was something like he was 6 of 15 for... Or no, wait. Yeah, it was 6 of 15 for only 9 yards. So it's going to be important that he plays better when they get down to that end of the field. And obviously when Roethlisberger is playing well, that usually means Antonio Brown is producing too. As far as who the Patriots and Bill Belichick are going to key in on this week, I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to focus most of their attention on Le'Veon Bell, and that's with good reason. He's set the Steelers' franchise rushing record in a postseason game each of the last 2 weeks, and that's scary because he's produced 3 receiving yards through the air in these 2 combined games. His patient running style is something that has never before been used so often and effectively in the NFL before. I think Belichick is going to try to coach up his defense to try to come up with a style that can counter Bell's style so that they don't sort of exploit a hole, but they wait for Bell to decide before they make their decision. Moving on, the Steelers' defense. Historically, it's been a great matchup for Tom Brady. Can this defense, which statistically isn't as great as the old defenses of the 2000s, but one that's probably more athletic, do you think they can play well enough to finally win this time around?
I think this defense is one of the better Steelers defenses that Brady's had to face. It's not the best. Not the best.
Are you talking this year or I'm sorry, are you talking this year or like historically?
Historically.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The Steelers have a slight advantage in the amount of offensive injuries the Patriots have and may be able to capitalize on this. Also, the unit is much better than when the Patriots met them the first time. Sean Davis only played 3 snaps in the first game. James Harrison just 24. Shazier 32. And obviously Dupree had 0 because he was still on IR. But this team should be much different as Sean Davis has taken on a starting role and Bud Dupree is back and playing hard. Not to mention that James Harrison and Ryan Shazier are playing at high levels right now, so having them in for longer will make a difference in this game. So I really think if there's a game for the defense to make a difference against Tom Brady, it would be now. But what do you think?
Well, I think I disagree with you just about how the historical Steelers defense. The Steelers had some elite defensive units from 2007 to 2012. Their defense was ranked in the top 10 every season. That doesn't mean this unit isn't good. And in fact, it might be a better matchup now because the Patriots offense isn't as good as it was back then, and the Steelers adapt more and they use more, sub-package football. That's the way it goes now. But I'll put it this way. If the Steelers are going to win and have a good defensive game, now is going to be the time. The Steelers defenses in the past were historically and statistically better, but they also struggled against the Patriots. This unit may not be as good as those units, but I do think they have a lot working for them this week. The number one thing is that Rob Gronkowski, renowned Steelers killer, someone who's torched the Steelers in his first career game against the Steelers. He had 3 touchdowns. He was out and will not play in this game. He scored a couple of long touchdowns in the first matchup, and the argument could have been made that he was shut down for part of that game too. His replacement, Martellus Bennett, is certainly a capable tight end, but he is banged up along with other receivers, Chris Hogan and Malcolm Mitchell. This gives the Steelers athletic defense and young defensive backs a fighting chance. But because they have Tom Brady at quarterback, the key has always been to get pressure on Brady through the middle and frustrate him to upset his timing routes with the receivers because he always finds the open spot in the defense. And also something to note that the Patriots have a young center. I think he's a rookie, but I could be wrong. He started last week, and he struggled at times against the Texans' athletic front, and they fooled him a few times as Brady got sacked a couple of times, and you could tell he was definitely frustrated. What about the? I'm sorry. Moving over to the other side of the ball, the storyline about the Patriots we got here. It's all about their defense right now, is what we're talking about. They have the number one scoring defense in all of football. Is their defense really as good as the numbers are telling us, Austin?
I feel like to answer this question, I have to list all the quarterbacks that the Patriots have faced since Week 11 to prove my point. It starts off with Colin Kaepernick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jared Goff, so we're already off to a great start. Then we go into some decent quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, Trevor Siemian, and Matt Moore, and then we finish with Brock Osweiler. Then we cannot forget that earlier in Week 7, they got to face Landry Jones. So from that whole list of quarterbacks I gave you, there are maybe 3 good quarterbacks, depending. There's not a great quarterback. It's arguable that Trevor Siemian Matt Moore isn't a good quarterback either, but I gave it to him. I gave him benefit of the doubt. So I won't say this makes the Patriots defense bad, but it's not really an amazing defense as statistics show. If you have to go against quarterbacks like Colin Kaepernick and Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's obviously going to inflate your numbers. They didn't have a great quarterback on there that they had to face. They haven't had to face one really all season. So it's just a good defense. It's not as great as the numbers say. What do you think?
Let me ask you this, Austin. I know that this list isn't as bad as the quarterbacks the Patriots have faced, but listen to the quarterbacks the Steelers have faced since they started their winning streak. You got Cody Kessler, Scott Tolzien, Eli Manning, Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco, Robert Griffin III, Matt Moore, and Alex Smith. I know that's a better group, but I'm concerned that the Steelers defense may have a similar situation when you've got the Browns quarterbacks twice. You got a backup in Matt Moore. You have Scott Tolzien, who I think that might have been his first career start. So my point, I guess I'm trying to say, get across, which I said on Twitter, is that I've noticed that play around the NFL hasn't been that good this year in comparison to other years. I feel like you look at the last 4 teams, there really aren't that many teams that are like complete. Like you look at the NFC side, those teams are all offense, and I just wanted to see what you thought about that, because it feels like there really aren't any dominant teams. Like, yeah, the Steelers and Patriots have played well defensively, but they haven't exactly faced great competition. There just aren't that many good quarterbacks and good teams, don't you think?
I can agree with that. There's only like a handful of great quarterbacks, like Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan was playing big this year. Derek Carr was playing big this year. Ben Roethlisberger, as always. Russell Wilson, he started to fall off this season, but I'd still put him up top. And that's I hope I said Tom Brady just in case I'm saying it again. That's really it. That's like 6 good quarterbacks that you could face in total. Like that's really it. There's not that many of them. So
yeah, because if you don't have a good quarterback, you really don't have much of an offense, and obviously you need that to have a balanced team. If you don't have if you have a good defense like the Broncos do, but they have Trevor Siemian. It's just interesting that something I thought about this morning before we started the show. But anyways, to answer the question after that tangent, no, I don't think the Patriots defense is as good as the numbers will tell us. All week we've seen the list of poor quarterbacks that you just recited, Austin. So I think that when you play that many teams like that, you're definitely going to get some deflated numbers in this case, no pun intended, with the Patriots. I didn't even realize that. That was horrible. But however, at the same time, they're still a good defense, and the fact of the matter is, like I said, the way the NFL has been with the lackluster quarterback play, it really makes you appreciate having guys like Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady. The thing is, it's all about keeping teams out of the end zone, something that both of these defenses have done a really good job at. They're both great in the red zone, and they're both opportunistic, which is something that maybe that passes for great defense in the NFL nowadays. At least this year it does, but they're still a solid unit that the Steelers definitely can't look past. So moving on, is there a clear-cut weakness for this team, Austin? I know we both have similar thoughts on it.
Oh, it is the special teams usually. They might have the worst special teams unit in the league right now. I can't really think of another one that's quite as bad. The Patriots are third on fumbles with 27, and a big reason for that is special teams. I couldn't find the exact number, but I believe the Patriots are upwards of 8 fumbles on special teams if you include the one Dion Lewis lost in the Texans game just last week, and that's really bad. We bag on the Steelers' special teams a lot for not getting many return yards, but it's way better than losing the ball 8 times. The Steelers have not fumbled once on special teams as far as I remember. At least we didn't lose it. Kobe Hamilton did fumble once, now that I remember. But in terms of the kicking units, Gostkowski is having a rather down year. He missed an extra point, which was big for him, and his field goal percentage ranks 30th in the league. That was surprising. I had to look that up. I knew he was having a bad season. I didn't realize he was the third to worst. His percentage is 72.4% of field goals made. And then moving on to one of the last parts of their special teams, their punter Ryan Allen is having a middle-of-the-pack year, ranked 17th for average yards punted. Punted is tied for 15th with 27 of his punts falling within the 20. So with all that being said, their special teams unit is definitely the Patriots' weak spot in my opinion. What do you think?
Austin, where'd you get the 72% from?
I went on the 2016 ESPN rankings.
Huh. Because for whatever reason, I'm seeing 84.4%. That's still not good by his standards, don't get me wrong, but...
Have you switched it back to regular season?
Yeah, I'm looking at here. Let me double check. But I just wanted to talk quickly about their special teams. It's definitely something that is shocking considering you think about the Patriots. They're usually so good in every facet. They don't make many mistakes. One person that I am worried about is the son of Hall of Fame lineman Matthew Slater, number 18. He's been he's going to the Pro Bowl again. He's really a good special teamer. He's good at downing those punts. I remember he made a big play in the playoff game last week. So he's definitely had another good season. But yeah, overall the special teams just isn't what we're accustomed to it being. All right, Austin, I'm looking at NFL.com. According to 2016, he is 84.4% on his field goals this year, but he's also missed 3 extra points. He's 46 of 49 on extra points this year, after only missing 1 his entire career before that.
Huh.
In the regular season, at least.
ESPN and NFL stats are off. That's weird. Unless Gostkowski, I'm looking at New England. I'm not sure, but did Gostkowski get hurt this year? I didn't think so, but
no, I
if
think
he did, that would make sense.
I think he's played. If he did, it didn't keep him out of any of the games.
All right, then I have no idea why ESPN and NFL are off.
Well, who knows? But anyways, we're going to move on to the offensive preview. Austin, it's everyone's wondering if the Steelers' offense can keep up with the Patriots' offense this week. Can they do it?
It all starts with Roethlisberger here. If there's a time to have a good, complete game on the road for him, now would be the time. He can't play like he played last week, missing wide-open throws because the Patriots will be able to capitalize on those red zone failures. The offense just needs to be able to fire on all cylinders here and attack the weak spots that show their head. I believe going after cornerback Logan Ryan would be key here. The quarterback has 92 tackles, 10 more than any other quarterback. And obviously it doesn't have to be taken this way, but what that tells me is that he's given up a catch 10 more times than the next worst cornerback. And I think he needs to be tested since apparently he's giving up a lot of catches. Also, statistically, Malcolm Butler has not fared too well against Antonio Brown, giving up 200 yards and a touchdown in their last 2 meetings. So probably attack there as well. Moving on, Le'Veon Bell will also need to have another big game here like he did last time. But to get a win, he's probably going to have to do better on the ground because last time he rushed 21 times for 81 yards, and that was under 4.4 yards per carry. So it wasn't really a great day for him on the ground, but he did contribute in the air. But for the offense, that's really it. And then on to the defense. The defense specifically, the defensive backs are going to have the toughest challenge. Yes, they're going to need to play conservatively because Tom Brady hardly makes mistakes. Until last game, he had only thrown 2 interceptions all year, so it's really going to be tough. Luckily, they are slightly being given an advantage in the fact that a lot of the Patriots wide receivers are hurt, but that won't stop Edelman since he's not on the injury report. So the Steelers are going to have to do their best to play lockdown defense. Then the linebackers can't let Dion Lewis and Garrett Blount run all over them. Last time, the unit as a whole let Blount get over 200 yards, and if that happens, it's going to be the same outcome as the last time, a bad loss. And those are the only two keys I have for the defense. So let's hear your keys to winning.
Well, as far as my keys go, offensively, there can't be any turnovers. Converting on third down is the other key on offense for me. Last week, the Steelers came up short in the Chiefs' end of the field 7 different times with 6 field goals and an interception. That must change this week. Obviously, playing a clean game with no turnovers gives you a fighting chance to defeat the Patriots, but keeping Tom Brady in that offense off the field is another key. The Steelers struggled on the road in critical third down situations last week, minus their final conversion. I'm looking for other wide receivers to step up this week. Defensively, it's as plain as it can be. The book on Tom Brady has always been to get pressure up the middle and then frustrate him that way. The Texans used Jadeveon Clowney and Whitney Merciless effectively, rushing them from both the outside and inside to keep the blitz mixed up, and Tom Brady messed up with his timing with his receivers. While the Steelers... Oh, my apologies. While the Steelers don't boast a great pass rushing unit, they still have arguably the best inside pass rushers for linebackers in Ryan Shazier and Lawrence Timmons. Moving on, we still need to do the preview, Austin, of the offense and defense, correct?
Yeah, that was my bad. I screwed it up. I said keys to winning when I was actually done reading my preview. So,
well,
I believe I didn't actually do my keys to the game. I actually did my preview and ended it wrong.
Well, in that case, why don't we just roll with it? You do your keys, and then I'll do my preview.
Alrighty. So, I mentioned it earlier, but someone that's not named Bell or Brown needs to do something. It doesn't matter who it is. If DeMarcus Harris wants to have a 75-yard receiving game here, this would be a great time to have that kind of a breakout game. But honestly, just someone. Anyone needs to get at least 4 catches to complement Antonio and Bell being fed. So they respect covering someone else and don't just focus on locking down Brown and Bell. Also, Roethlisberger's going to have to be on point this week and not like he played last week and how he's played on the road all season. He's just going to have to do better. So on the defensive side, the key is that this is more of a key for the coaches, but it falls as the defensive responsibility. Heat needs to be sent up the middle. The Patriots line is weak down the middle, and Brady has struggled when blitz has been sent that way. So the coach, Keith Butler, or whatever who's calling the play for that time, if it's a defensive audible, they need to call plays where Shazier comes running up the middle or Lawrence Timmons comes running up the middle, or I don't really care. Just someone needs to come up the middle. And that's really it. I don't believe the defense really needs to do much else. So let's hear your preview.
Okay, well, on offense, I guess offensive and defensively, this is probably going to be the toughest test the Steelers have faced this year. Like we mentioned, the Patriots have a top 10 defensive unit that's first in points against. We're both in agreement that they're not as good as their numbers suggest, but they're still a good unit, and they're very good in the red zone. Much like last week, I'm expecting the Steelers to be able to move the ball somewhat consistently. I still think that even with the Patriots selling out to stop Le'Veon Bell, we're still going to see him get his yards. I think the key is going to be the way the Steelers open the game. I think they're going to do it just like they did Miami, which is a lot of quick early passes, trying to loosen up the defense. Interesting to note that Malcolm Butler is usually one-on-one against Antonio Brown, which you mentioned hasn't really worked that well for him. I'm curious to see if they're going to try to change that this week, or if they're going to just keep it the same and keep trying to attack Le'Veon Bell. I see the Steelers' offensive line. Yeah, I think the Steelers' offensive line and Bell are too good to not get 115 rushing yards this week. But obviously, the key is to score touchdowns when they get into scoring range. It's going to be important for someone else to step up. Last week, it was Jesse James who had a career game converting several key first downs, but at the same time, that still wasn't enough. The Steelers weren't scoring touchdowns. They're going to need something like that from James or someone else, and they'll need an added contributor, whether that be Rodgers, Ayers, or Hamilton, or even Darius Hayward-Bay, or Gasp, even Sammy Coates. But above all else, as cliche as it is, Ben Roethlisberger needs to play at his best. In a rematch of the AFC Championship game from 12 years ago, the Steelers have been looking for this kind of a rematch for years now, and at that time the Steelers were riding on a strong running attack and good defense in a similar way to they are now, where they've ridden improved defensive play in Le'Veon Bell, to victories, but Ben Roethlisberger has been marked by inconsistency in some games during this 8-game winning streak. We have some bad games like the one in Buffalo, some games like the ones in Cincinnati and the one against Baltimore where he was all right, and some good games like the ones against the Dolphins in the playoffs. He's going to have to be good or even great if the Steelers want to make it to the Super Bowl. Part of his inconsistent play, I think, is because of the receivers when you consider guys like Martavis Bryant, Sammy Coates, and Darius Hayward-Bay and Marcus Wheaton have all been injured or suspended or disappeared at certain points. But at the same time, Roethlisberger is going to have to limit his turnovers, take what the defense gives him, and get other guys involved because you know the defense is going to be keyed in on Brown when he's out on his passing routes. Defensively, as I said earlier, the Steelers caught a break by not being forced to match up with Rob Gronkowski and the Patriots offense at full strength. Instead, they'll be facing a group that's injured, including Martellus Bennett, Chris Hogan, and Malcolm Mitchell. The way I see it, Julian Edelman is the key receiver in the passing game. He caught 98 passes for a lot of reasons, but one is that Tom Brady trusts him. He loves getting the ball to him, and he's a very smart player. He always knows how to find the hole in the defense in the zone. And he's Brady's safety valve. So if you can focus your attention on him in coverage and take some chances one-on-one with the guys like Bennett, Mitchell, and Hogan, I don't think we'll see much of Michael Floyd, but that could be wrong. The one thing that would concern me is the speed and escapability, the ability to catch balls out of the backfield, Deion Lewis and James White. But I still think the Steelers have capable guys in Lawrence Timmons, Ryan Shazier, and Sean Davis to sort of keep tabs on them and not let them break free, kind of like the Texans did with Deion Lewis last week, but not as effectively. I will get to it more later, but I think, like I was saying, the only way to get to Brady is to get him, or to slow him down, is to get pressure out the middle, like you were saying. Just bring everything you have up the middle, not all the time, but you want to be able to get consistent pressure up the middle. The thing that I'm concerned about mostly, though, is the Steelers' rush defense. The Patriots have 3 good running backs who can all run well and each bring something different to the table. For those who don't remember, LeGarrette Blount ran for 127 yards in the first matchup with the Steelers, and while the Steelers' defense has been much better since that game and the offense will be better too, I still worry that them selling out to slow down Tom Brady and facing a bruising running back like Blount may be something the Steelers struggle to stop. So, Austin, moving on, we're doing something a little different this week. We're going to have our X Factors, but I noticed that our bold predictions aren't exactly bold. Sometimes they're just kind of predictions about the game. So I wanted to have an X Factor on offense and defense and a bold prediction for each of them.
All right, sounds good. So I'll start with the offensive side, and my X Factor is going to be Le'Veon Bell. Statistically, the Patriots have been able to shut down the run, but I think Bell is better than most of the guys the Patriots have gone against, and he's a different kind of runner than they have to deal with. The first time they struggled to keep him contained in the passing game, but he rushed 21 times for only 81 yards. So this time, I think he does better on the ground, getting 115 yards, and adds another 45 in the air. Now, switching to the defensive side, I was going to go with Shazier, but I'm going to give it to Bud Dupree. He didn't get to play last time, but he's going to contribute a lot here. I feel it, and he's going to get a sack and a half in this game and add on 2 other tackles for a loss. So who are your X factors and your bold predictions for both of them?
Well, on offense, we both said it. Someone else has to step up, and for whatever reason, for just being a hunch, I think it's going to be Kobe Hamilton this week. There was a time during the regular season at the end of that winning streak where he made like a big third down catch like 4 weeks in a row. I have no basis for him doing this. I just think someone has to, and if the Steelers are going to win, it's my bold prediction that he's going to finish with 6 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. I really wanted to say 2, but then I remember that he only caught 2 this year, and one of them was in that last game against the Browns. So I'll stick with just 1. On the other side of the ball, it's Javon Hargrave. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure he didn't play that much in the first matchup because I think Cameron Hayward was still healthy, wasn't he? Or was that not true? That might have been Hargrave's first start, wasn't it?
I believe it to be Hargrave's first start because I remember Cameron Hayward getting hurt, and I was mad because he wouldn't be there in time for the Patriots game, so I believe he had to be hurt by this time.
I seem to remember Hayward was hurt in the Dolphins game too, which was the week before. But anyways, Hargrave is a much different player now than he was then. He has shown a consistent ability since the Steelers' win streak began to stop the run and rush the passer from the inside. He's facing a young center, like I said, who struggled last week at times. He'll be crucial in slowing down the three running backs the Patriots have and getting pressure on the middle on Tom Brady, when you don't want to send guys like Timmons and Shazier on every play, because then you don't have them back covering guys out in the defensive backfield. So it's going to be key for Hargrave to get some pressure. I think he has 3 quarterback hurries, a knockdown, and 1 sack. But I think if he plays the way we've seen him play at times this year, it's going to be a very long day for Tom Brady, and I think he'll have a tough time getting the production we all think that he can get. So, another new segment we're doing this time, instead of doing the bold predictions, we're kind of replacing that with an over-under sort of thing. Things we're seeing a lot from like betting and stuff like that. So we just wanted to see what you thought, Austin, and hopefully you guys can give us some feedback and tell us what you think about this. So we have 5 for each team. So starting first, we have Le'Veon Bell. Do you have Le'Veon Bell over or under 95 rushing yards?
I have him over, and how about you?
For me, I also believe it's going to be over. He's playing too well in the offensive line of the Steelers. It's up for one of the offensive lines of the year. It's been a really good unit, and I still don't see them being able to slow down Bell. I think he gets around 115, like I was saying. Antonio Brown, 8.5 catches, over or under?
Well, since we haven't seen this much this year, I had to pick under because it's only had to happen only like twice where he's gotten 9 catches or more. So I picked under. Most of his better games have come under, so that's what I went with. How about you?
I agree with you, but the way I see this game unfolding, I think it's going to be late, and the Steelers are going to need to move the ball through the air. I think when that's the case, Roethlisberger is always going to look Brown's way, so I think maybe he'll get 3 or 4 catches late in the game. That's why I think he'll be over. So for this, Ben Roethlisberger, 66% completion percentage, so that's like completing 2/3 of his passes. Do you think he'll complete a higher percentage or a lower percentage?
I had it over at first, but then I switched to under. I'm scared because I don't know how Ben Roethlisberger is going to play. I don't know if he's going to come out and do really well like he's done at times, or he's going to do really bad. Since it's a road game, I switched it to under. But that's really it. What do you have for it?
Everyone talks about Ben Roethlisberger's home and road splits for his touchdown to interception ratio, but the one that's really concerning is that his completion percentage on the road this year is, I think, under 60%. So it's like 59%. So that's not good, and that's why I'm going under too. So the Steelers at 400 offensive yards, over or under?
I have them over. The way I predicted Le'Veon Bell having 115, I think the offense could put together 285 to get to 400, so I went with over. How about you? I'm
still concerned about Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know what it's been, but he hasn't been able to find his game over this stretch. I'm still wondering if I heard this narrative earlier this week, and I don't know if it's true, but it's definitely something that I've pondered. I wonder if he's still not 100% recovered from that injury that he had back against the Dolphins, because he just hasn't played many great games since then, you know? I mean, then again, he did have that great game against the Cowboys, but I mean, I don't know, it's something that gave me pause, because it's so strange for him to go so long without putting together at least some really good games, you know? It's really puzzling. But anyway, so I went under with that. So Austin, Steelers at 25.5 points, over or under?
I was under at first, and then I was over at first, and I switched to under, then I went back to over. I think they could do it. It's the only way they're going to win if they score over 25 points, so I'm going to be hopeful and go with 25.5. How about you?
I don't know if I can see the Steelers scoring more than 4 offensive touchdowns, which would mean 28 points, but I think they can definitely get a couple of field goals and 3 touchdowns, so I'm going over on a slim margin. Moving on to the Patriots now. Tom Brady, who historically has done very good against the Steelers, I have him at 3.5 touchdowns. Over or under?
he's going to be under. I don't think he gets 4 touchdowns here. This defense is a little harder than people are making it out to be. I think they're going to have to rely on the rushing game for some touchdowns. So I'm going under. How about you?
I also think under, but I think Brady's going to play well. But just because he plays well doesn't mean he's going to throw 4 touchdowns. You could also see the running backs, especially like LeGarrette Blount, get those carries at the goal line. So I think it's possible the Patriots score 4 touchdowns, but it's going to come on the ground too. I don't think it's all going to be Brady through the air. Julian Edelman, 85 receiving yards, over or under?
I went with under only because the Patriots are now lacking right now. So the Steelers have less to really focus on. I feel like they're going to be focusing on Edelman and Martellus Bennett as the 2 people they choose to take away, and then they're going to make other Patriots step up. So I went with under because I think Edelman is not going to have that great of a day. How about you?
Much in this, I'm using the same reasons, but I'm actually going over just because I think Brady trusts Edelman more than he trusts anybody else at this point. So I think he might not force plays, but I think he'll be looking his way more often. So that's what I think for that. Patriots, 2.5 sacks against, under or over?
I have over. I think I believe in this unit. What do you have?
I remember all these games watching the Patriots where they couldn't get pressure, and the one time they did, they won. That was when Lamar Woodley was at his best. I think he had like 2 sacks on Brady by himself that day. He was just constantly rushing him. I don't see that happening this time. I think the Patriots know the Steelers are going to bring that blitz up the middle. They're going to use a lot of 1-3-step drops, try to get the ball out fast. So I don't think the Steelers are going to get too many chances to get on Brady, but I think they can probably finish with a couple. I'm going under on this one. Patriots running backs, that includes James White, Dion Lewis, and LeGarrette Blount. 70 combined rushing yards, over or under?
Oh, way over. Way over. If this was a real Vegas thing, if you really pulled this up, I'm thinking about betting on it because Dion Lewis is nuts. He didn't get to play the Steelers the first time, and Dion Lewis is just the shiftiest back I've ever seen. And then obviously LeGarrette Blount the first time put up 120 or so, 127 I believe. So I'm going over. How about you?
Well, first thing, I actually heard this week that the Patriots, when Dion Lewis is in the lineup, the Patriots are undefeated.
Oh.
Because you remember last year he tore his ACL and he didn't play like the last I think 10 games, and then this year he only played like the last 4 or something like that. So it's just interesting to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
He's not the reason, but he's still a good player. And going back to what I was saying, yeah, Lewis is shifty. James White is more of a receiving back, so I'm not too concerned about him on the ground. I wanted to say under because of the way the Steelers' defense has played teams on the ground the last few weeks. They've been so good at stopping the run, but I just think the Patriots have too much going for them. They have multi-dimensional backs in Lewis and Blount. I think they'll get over 70 rushing yards. I don't think it'll be that much more than you. I don't think it's going to be that high like you're thinking, but I still think it's going to be over, probably closer to 90. So the last one, Austin, the Patriots, 3.5 offensive touchdowns, over or under?
I have them over. I think that Brady's going to probably throw about 3, maybe 2 if the Steelers defense is really locking on. But I think that the rushing game will make up for it if he only throws for 2, and then they'll have 2. Or if he throws 3, they'll have 1. I basically think they're going to get 4 touchdowns regardless. What do you think?
I think the Patriots get 4 offensive touchdowns, and I think the Steelers get 3. So I'm going to go over with this one on the Patriots. So that's going to lead me into my final score prediction. Like I just said, 4 for the Patriots, 3 for the Steelers. I think the Steelers can tack on a couple of field goals, and the Patriots get 1. But the more and more I analyze this game, it's funny. The more ways I see the Steelers having ways to beat the Patriots. But the fact of the matter is, the Patriots went 14-2 for a lot of reasons. They win games for a lot of reasons. They have a really good team. They have a future Hall of Famer, first ballot quarterback, and they're favored, and they should be. I'm hoping I'm wrong here, but I think the Patriots win by a score of 31-27 and advance to Super Bowl 51.
For me, I have it almost exactly the same. I have a 1 field goal difference. I have the Patriots winning 28-27 in a close one. But yeah, the Patriots are probably going to advance the Super Bowl. But I really want the Steelers here. Don't take this as we want them to lose. Steelers Depot did this last week, and then everyone yelled at him. We don't want the Steelers to lose. We just think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we both predicted the Steelers to lose.
Yeah, at the same week, I think so.
And it's not like they're facing an impossible task. It's not like they're facing a team that's that much better than them. I think they have a little too much going against them, and the play of Ben Roethlisberger is just a little bit concerning to me as far as the way he's played the last few weeks. But obviously, we both hope that we're wrong. So moving on to, we have a couple news and notes here. Some news is that Travis Kelce, the tight end on the Chiefs, who complained about the officials last week after a holding call on a 2-point conversion try that was nullified. He was fined $21,000 for his comments towards an official after the game, during which he said that he should never wear the zebra stripes again, and he shouldn't even be allowed at Foot Locker. And it's interesting to note this official will be in the Super Bowl as well. So I guess what I wanted to say is that my thoughts on this is that he should have been fined, but I think it's also worth noting that I think $21,000 for a fine for something like that may be a bit excessive, considering Sean Davis got a pretty similar amount for nearly decapitating Chris Conley last week, and that's something the NFL claims to be much more important. I don't know. What do you think about it, Austin?
I think that it really infringes on freedom of speech, but I mean, I guess they agree to it in their contract. It's kind of like when you go to school when you're young and you can't curse in school, otherwise you get in trouble. But it's still a little bit, it's ridiculous. And then I feel like Kelce didn't have so much reason to be mad about it, but there is something to say about the officiating, especially this year and in recent years. Like, it's basically become a joke that whenever the Seahawks play at home, that they're going to win penalty games all the time. It's just there's going to be bad calls called for the other team. And I think that the officials are just, we need, to put it this way, the NFL needs full-time officials. The NFL needs officials that they have all year, that are dedicated to the game, that are really good, and they really just need to improve, because this year I feel like there was really bad. I can think of like several blown calls that in other games other than Steelers games where I thought, wow, the refs are really, really screwing this game up in the wrong way, and it's bad. So that's my thoughts on it.
All right, well, that's certainly a discussion for the offseason when we get to it, but moving on, there's a flu bug running through both the Packers and Steelers locker rooms right now. Is this very impactful for the games on Sunday, assuming it's still with them?
I think so, but my immediate thought is just that we're going to have a classic Lawrence Timmons throwing up, even though he wasn't on the injury report for an illness. But I feel like whenever Lawrence Timmons is sick, he plays, and he just there's always a quality video of him floating around Twitter, him throwing up on the sideline or whatever. But back to being serious, I do think so, because for anyone who's ever gotten the flu, they know how much it hurts to move. Now imagine trying to run, trying to think about having to cover someone or trying to catch a ball. Like, that is not easy stuff. So anyone that got the flu, I believe there's only a few starters that got it. I know Mettenberger got it. I know Hayward Bay and Ladarius Green got it. Green could be out on his own for the concussion. So the only one that I could really think about, please let me know about the other two, because I can't actually remember the other two that got it, but is Hayward Bay. And Hayward Bay that's what the Steelers need him for. The Steelers need him for running a straight line as fast as he can, and that's not easy to do with the flu. And I would also like to apologize, because that's probably why he didn't see a target last week. He was probably sick last week too. He probably started with it. I mean, we don't know that, but he probably wasn't feeling well that day either. But I believe it should be impactful for both games. Yes. What do you think?
Poor Zach Mettenberger. Dude's a third-string quarterback, and he just gets the flu. So that's rough. But anyways, it can be impactful if certain guys are infected with it, obviously. That's kind of the key we're getting to. I'm not saying that the flu isn't debilitating. I had it my freshman year of college before finals week, and it was one of the worst weeks of my life. But, I mean, you think about the medical staffs they have and how in shape these guys are. I'm not saying that they're supermen by any stretch of the imagination, except for James Harrison. But, I mean, I still think these guys can still play. Whether they play as well or not as they normally would is a different thing, but I still think they'll play. It can have an impact. I just don't think it's going to be huge. But then again, I mean, sometimes your best performance happens when when you have the flu, just like Michael Jordan did in the NBA Finals. But, you know, that's another thing. But the last thing I wanted to get to, I don't have it here, but the Colts just fired their GM, Ryan Grigson, Austin. Took long enough, didn't it?
Yeah, it was about time. I mean, they really should have been done last year, maybe even the year before. But, I mean, winning really makes the difference because, I mean, obviously the Colts were winning 2 years ago, I believe. They were one of the
AFC Championship game.
I believe they lost. Sorry, you go?
AFC Championship game. That's where the whole Deflategate stuff started.
That's what I thought. I was like, they probably went against the Patriots. But anyway, as soon as you start losing, that's when firings start happening. It might not even be their fault, but I mean, it was about time for this guy. He should have probably been gone. They said they have more news at 5:30, so possibly Pagano might be fired as well. But a lot of people are saying his job is safe. What do you think about the whole situation? I
think it should have happened last year. When they regress like that, if they didn't make the championship game that year, I think he definitely would have been gone last year. That team is ugly right now. The defense isn't good. The running game isn't good. The offensive line isn't good. They have some nice receivers in T.Y. Hilton, and they have a couple of good tight ends, but it's pretty much Andrew Luck. And that guy, God, it must suck watching because he's getting bullied back there, and he's got no help anywhere else. I feel bad for him, but, you know, it could turn around someday, which I'm hoping for his sake it does. As far as the announcement for more news, that won't happen for an hour. It's approximately 4:27 Eastern time from where we're recording right now. So we'll see. We'll update on our Twitter page as far as what's going on. So, Austin, is there anything else you wanted to point out before we wrap up this AFC Championship Edition podcast?
Yeah, actually there is. You want to hear something kind of bad? The Colts had four picks within the first 3 rounds this year. All went on defense, and they ranked 30th in defense.
How many of them were injured?
The Steelers picked 3 defensive players, and we ranked like 12th. So there's that.
I'm sorry. I was asking how many of them, if you knew, were injured. Did you know?
I have no idea. I just saw the tweet that's what happened. I'm not completely sure.
Speaking of injuries, maybe someday we can get Senquez Golson back, and maybe he can become something. We'll see.
Possibly. He's in his second year, and he's already been on IR for both years. And has he even seen a preseason game? I feel like every time he was hurt, it was before preseason.
He's seen, I think, 2.5 days of training camp practice.
Solid. Great.
Yep. Poor guy. But anyways, that's a discussion for another time. We're running long here, so we're going to wrap things up. If you want to check us out on Twitter and Facebook, our usernames are STS Podcast 1. If you have any questions about the show or want to give some feedback, talk to me or Austin. Email our show at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. And no matter what happens on Sunday, it's been a great season for the Steelers, and we're really hoping they can come through with a win here. But we'll see. It's definitely going to be a great weekend for football. And thank you all for joining us today. Go Steelers.